What's wrong with the Chicago Bulls? Let's talk about this, man. This team looks absolutely horrid on both ends of the court. So many things wrong with this Bulls team as they keep slipping in the standings, and the season may be slipping away. Let's talk about it. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NBA here to talk about the Chicago Bulls. So if you're a Bulls fan, hit the big red subscribe button down below. People, make sure you are following me on all my social media platforms. And as always, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. All right, so we have to have an uncomfortable conversation here. So sit back, relax, grab something to drink here because we need to talk about this Bulls team. And I got to tell you, I have kind of been holding back on talking about the Bulls team because I wanted to kind of let the season play out. It's early. Teams are still trying to figure things out. And you want to go ahead and give teams a little bit more time, get a little bit more of a sample size, but enough is enough. All right. When you give up 150 points in regulation, let me repeat that. When you give up 150 points in regulation, your team is broken. It's broken, folks. That's an all-star game score. 150 points, no overtime. All right, somehow it's the fourth most that they've given up in their Bulls history. I thought it was the most, but anyways, 150 points they gave up, and not even to a team that's like a championship contender type team. Like the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're solid, but they're not the Bucks, they're not the Celtics, they're not one of these top tier teams. And they gave up 150 points to them, and they didn't even have Karl Anthony Towns, arguably their best player. That shows you that this Bulls team is broken. Now, you might be asking, Faiz, what's wrong with this Bulls team? There's a lot. There's a lot that's wrong with this Bulls team. Zach LaVine has not played like himself. He has not looked like himself. He has not looked like the Zach LaVine that we paid all that money to that's been an all-star. Does not look like the same player. Billy Donovan, he has been very, very inept this season in terms of his ability to coach, because the way the guys out there perform and their effort level, that's a reflection on the head coach. And right now, the Bulls just aren't competing. Forget about like the X's and O's. The Bulls just aren't even competing. That's a problem. That's a problem and a reflection on the head coach. So Billy Donovan, who I've never been a huge fan of, I never thought Billy was horrible, but I've never been a huge fan of, his hot seat keeps getting hotter and hotter because this team just isn't competing. Where's the heart for the Bulls? 150 points. Again, you got to be kidding me here. And 4 straight losses to the Hawks, back-to-back losses to the Knicks, the second one being a blowout, right? So a team beats you, and you want to go ahead and spank them the next game, but no, instead the Bulls lie down, and get absolutely trampled on by the Knicks, a back-to-back loss to the same team, and then, of course, the loss to the Timberwolves. There was a period in the season that you thought, hey, maybe this team is turning it around because they had beaten the Celtics, they had beaten the Bucks, and you could see, hey, at their best, that defense that they can play could be playoff caliber. You could see the type of potential this team has. None of that we're seeing. None of that. This team just looks broken at this point. So we talked about Zach, we talked about Billy Donovan. The third thing wrong with this team, no identity, right? That's, to me, again, a reflection on Billy Donovan. What is the identity of this team? Okay, fine, we don't play defense, but are we a high-powered offense? No. Okay, clearly we're not good defensively, so you can't go ahead and make your mark there. So it's like, what is the identity of this team? It doesn't seem like they have one. You don't become a good team unless you have an identity and you know who you are. The Bulls, this far into the season, still trying to figure out themselves, still trying to figure what the heck they are. That shouldn't be happening. That really shouldn't be happening, okay? So you've got that. The Lonzo Ball thing, I don't even want to talk about and depend on, because we just know Lonzo isn't happening. And even if he does, there's nothing there in terms of us holding out hopes for when and if he returns. So I'm not even addressing the Lonzo Ball thing. DeMar has been what DeMar does. And then Vooch, clearly that trade that we made with the Orlando Magic, giving up Wendell Carter Jr. and the pick that turned out to be Franz Wagner, looking like a mistake at this point. But Vooch is who he is. And so the question now becomes is, what do you do? How do you turn this around? What's the answer here? And I got to tell you, it's easy to say break it up and rebuild. Very easy to say that. And logically, it actually probably is the right answer because DeMar DeRozan isn't getting any younger. Same with Nikola Vucevic. You know you're not going to beat the top teams in the East like the Bucks or the Celtics, teams like that. So it's like rebuilding is probably the right answer. And boy, would I love to have Victor Wembanyama, the projected number 1 overall pick in this draft. But the problem with that is you don't even own your own pick this season or this upcoming draft. That pick is going to the Orlando Magic in the, yeah, you guessed it, Nikola Vucevic trade. And so you have to actually be one of the 4, you have to get a top 4 pick. So the Bulls would have to be absolutely horrid. And at this point, it looks like they could be. But I'm talking about literally one of the worst 3-4 teams in the league, and to get a top 4 pick, and that's the only way they get to keep their own pick. Otherwise, it's going to the Magic. So tanking might not even be a real proposition here because of the fact that you don't even get rewarded for it. And so it kind of just feels like you have to, ride it out. But look, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting results. I want some changes here. All right. Here are a couple of things I got in mind. I think Arturas Karnisovas, the VP of basketball operations, him and Mark Eversley need to really sit down and figure out, look, the weaknesses of this team, we've seen it thus far, the sample size of the season that we have. Let's go out and get some players that can cover up those weaknesses. If we are not rebuilding and tanking this season because we don't own our own pick, well, we got to find a way to improve. All right, and if that means trading away Nikola Vucevic, then so be it. If that means trading away one of our top players, so be it. So to me, AK and Mark Eversley need to go ahead and do that, right? Figure out what we need to do by the trade deadline. Billy Donovan, on the other hand, he needs to figure out how he can have some accountability on this team because these guys just aren't playing hard. All right, he needs to go back and show that tape that they played against the Celtics and the Bucks and say, look, guys, this is the same team. I don't know what the heck happened. But if guys don't start performing and competing here, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be some accountability that needs to be held that Billy Donovan needs to identify. And here we go. If AK has some you-know-what, and same with Mark Eversley, and he needs to make a change, it's time to fire Billy Donovan. I'm sorry, but this is what happens in the NBA. When things don't go right, you really can't fire players. You can trade them, but you can't fire them. And so you got to go ahead and fire the head coach. And Billy Donovan, I'm sorry, he hasn't really been doing much for me to think that he's worth keeping around. And if you want to make a change, if you want to make a statement, if you want to make a spark, you might just have to fire Billy. I don't think that's happening because they just extended Billy Donovan secretly over the past offseason. So I don't see that happening, but I just wanted to throw that out there. So let me recap for you guys here. Number one, AK, ME need to go ahead and find out what the heck this team needs and find a way to trade for that, even if that means trading anyone on the roster. Nobody at this point feels like they're untradeable. Nobody. All right. Second thing, Billy Donovan needs to get some accountability on this roster one way or another. Guys just aren't competing. That's unacceptable. And number three, kind of the nuclear option is fire Billy Donovan, which I don't think happens because he got extended, but it's still there as a possibility if AK's got the you-know-what to do it. So there you have it, folks. My thoughts on this Bulls team, the problems that they have, really still hoping they can turn it around. There's still plenty of basketball left to play. 11-18, just not acceptable with the talent level that we have on this team. Let me know what you guys think. Any solutions you guys have for this Bulls team, leave a comment down below as always.